Point of order.
No.
Point of order.
Senate Leader, proceed on the amendment of the rules.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to move. Well, before my motion, Mr. President, let me just say that I brought my motion in two components. One was a motion seeking to amend section 8 sub 2 or order 8 sub 2 of our rules. The other one is seeking to amend order 96 of our rule by creating section order 58, which is a new committee. Mr. President, I am rounding up first to seek to withdraw the second component of my motion, which has to do with creation of the Committee on Reparations and Repatriation, to be stepped down till another time, subject to further consultation. However, with respect to the first component of my motion, which is the motion for the amendment of our standing order 8 sub 2, seeking to make us sit from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., I move that the Senate do resolve into a committee of the whole to consider this request. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I support the motion that the Senate resolve into a committee of the whole
Minority Leader.
to consider the motions moved by the motion leader that the Senate.
Distinguished colleagues, two motions are before us. The first is the Senate Leader is seeking to withdraw his earlier motion, his earlier prayer, that the Senate do create a committee on reparation and repatriation, and it has been seconded. Those in support that we step down the creation of a further committee on reparation and repatriation, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The second motion is to the effect that we commit to a committee of the whole to consider the amendment of our standing orders to enable us sit between 11 o'clock and 3 p.m. daily. Those in support that we move into committee of the whole, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we now revert to committee of the whole to consider just the amendment on time.
He wants to talk.
Talk. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make an emphasis that the duration of time we are going to spend here is just like the way it used to be. It's just a change. Instead of beginning our daily business from 10 o'clock, we are now starting at 11. And we're not going to no longer end at by 2, but we'll be ending by 3. So the time frame within which we are going to work in the chambers remain the same. Now it's 10 to 2. So we are changing to from 11 to 3. So the same time frame, the same time duration. I just want to emphasize this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, and then you are now saying that we have 2 periods to undertake chambers jobs. 9 o'clock in the morning to 11, and then 3 o'clock to probably 6. So this amendment is to enable people who want to take on oversight function in the morning from 9 o'clock to 11 to do so, and then because we are reducing 1 hour from 10 o'clock to 2, we are adding the 1 hour from 2 o'clock to 3. So it's plus and minus. But now we have 2 windows of opportunities. People that we need to take in the morning, either in a committee stage or public hearing, we can do so before the sitting by 11. And those that need to be taken towards evening, we can do so from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So you haven't lost anything.
Mr. Chairman, and to synchronize our time with that of the House, because sometimes we arrange for meetings by, by 11 or 10, then we have time clashing with the House of Representatives. So we decided to do the part of the reason is to synchronize our time so that we work at the same time because we are bicameral legislature.
Thank you.
So this is the reason. This is more of the reason.
Thank you.
Have a clash of our time.
I had earlier pointed this out that being a bicameral legislature, we have to be mindful of what our colleagues are doing. Sometimes we have the joint sitting of committees on both the House of Reps and the Senate. And so if they are sitting by 11 o'clock and then we are sitting by 10, then it doesn't make sense. If they are closing by 2 and we are closing by we are still on. So it's now going to be possible for them to join us so that when they are under deliberation, we are also under deliberation. When they are free in the morning to join the Senate for any committee oversight, then we will also be free to join them. So actually, the synchronization of time is also important because it takes the 2 chambers to agree on an issue. Like I said, it takes 2 hands to clap, being a bicameral legislature. So they are already operating 11 o'clock to 3. And so we are now also operating 11 o'clock to 3. But of course, it gives ample time for early morning assignments of various committees of the Senate to conclude matters within 1 hour, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock to 11 before sitting. Because plenary is only one out of our numerous functions that we undertake. And therefore, we should synchronize to make sure the 2 chambers are at par. So we can proceed. Amendment to Standing Order 2003 as amended to accommodate Amendment to Standing Order 2023. I can read. Sitting of the Senate. On Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, the Senate shall meet at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m., and unless previously adjourned, shall sit until 3 p.m., unless before a substantive motion have been moved by the leader of the Senate or a senator acting in that capacity that this Senate do now adjourn, and if such a motion be moved and if the question thereon is not previously been determined at 3 p.m., the President of the Senate shall adjourn the Senate without any question being put. So this moves the time for the Senate President to adjourn the Senate without questions from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and no longer at 2 o'clock. So those in support of this amendment in order to say aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it. The extension of time is there. It's automatic that if we need to extend beyond 3 p.m., then it will move a motion by quarter to 3. It's already enshrined in our rules in order to extend the time of sitting beyond 3 p.m. No longer extending the time of sitting beyond 2 p.m. Senate Leader. Anyway, for today, it is still up to 2 o'clock. So look at the time. You may need to extend the time beyond 2 p.m.
Well, Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, in view of the ongoing amendment to our rules, may I, for the very last time, pursuant to Order 8 sub 3, move that our time of sitting be extended beyond 2 p.m. to enable us conclude the proceedings as contained on the other paper for today. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I write to second the motion move that we extend our time beyond 2 p.m. to allow us to conclude the assignment of that. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, for the last time, a motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do extend its time beyond 2 p.m. to enable us exhaust all the items on the order paper. Those in support of this motion say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Henceforth, it shall be from 3 o'clock. You may wish to move for us to report progress.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the Senate do resolve back into plenary to enable the chairman report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. I write to second the motion that the House is about to plenary for the chair to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this August Assembly do revert to plenary for the chair to report progress. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole consider the Standing Order 2023 to accommodate committee and to accommodate an amendment and approved as follows. Order 8 subsection 2 as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Yes, point of order, Senator Kawu.
Uh, Thank you, Mr. President. My dear, distinguished, and respected colleagues. Uh, Mr. President, I am coming under Order 42, personal explanation.
Yes, you want to move a motion on privilege?
No, personal explanation.
Okay, that means you'll leave it for tomorrow on the next sitting. But if it's under privilege,
Oh, okay. Can I
yes,
tell the
the
head of
clerk.
the issue?
What order that you have on privilege?
I have already
So you come under order 40,
become
under
under put.
privilege.
Okay. Under put or order 40, privilege.
Huh? Yeah.
Order. Sir, is it privilege or personal explanation? Is privilege or personal explanation?
Privilege. But what do you want? So try order 10. So this is Senator Kawu. Just one. The problem, the problem arises. The your order 42 is in conflict with order 38 of our rules. Unless the Senate, order 38, unless the Senate otherwise directs, the business of each sitting, the business of each sitting day shall be transacted in the following order. Formal entry of the Senate. Second, we go into national anthem and prayers. Third, we go into approval of the votes and proceedings. Fourth, where there is oath, we administer for new members or senators elect. Five, we go through correspondences from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Six, other announcements by the President of the Senate. Then seven, we go into petitions. Then eight, matters of urgent public importance. Then nine, personal explanation. And then 10, we go into order of the day. So we actually enter into order of the day. So that's why I was saying, if it's something to do with privilege, you can raise it at any time. But if it's personal explanation, we had already started order of the day.
If the chair advised me to use a court to come under order 10th and 11th of the privilege I come, it is very straight and clear message which I want to send.
It's your privilege that I'm talking about. That is the only thing.
So thank you.
That's the one that you can raise at any time.
Okay, order 10 and 11, sir. Can I command it?
You don't need to read. Just proceed with what you have in mind.
Okay. So, Mr. President, my dear distinguished and respected colleagues, I am Suleiman Abrahaman Kawu Sumaila, representing Kano South Senatorial District. Mr. President, it is in respect of the today's judgment of Supreme Court, in respect of local government administration in Nigeria,
which affects your privilege. Yeah, go ahead.
As Nigeria, sir.
Yes.
As Nigeria, citizen of Nigeria.
As a citizen politician.
Citizen politician.
From Kano State.
Member of the Senate.
The state with the highest number of local governments.
And
so that judgment immediately affects your privilege. So that's why you are raising this. Yes. Directly. So yes. Proceed.
Okay. Sir, I think it is I want to use this opportunity to congratulate the Senate. If we can remember, we passed a motion which I brought before this Senate around 15th May 2024. And after we resolved, everybody supported the motion. Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Army Forces, in his own wisdom, I can say he viewed or he saw what the Senate or the body language of the Senate and of course Nigeria. He immediately approached Supreme Court. His action of go to Supreme Court to save and strengthen this democracy. He took the matter of the local government administration to Supreme Court. And today, by the grace of God, the Supreme Court had ruled in the favor of Nigeria. And
Senator Warada, welcome.
The judgment of today, sir, it clearly shows that the commitment of Mr. President. Therefore, I am commending the commitment of the Senate towards strengthening this democracy. Commend Mr. President and the entire Nigerians who stood in favor of anything that will make this democracy work, and also commend the judiciary on the standing on the side of truth, justice, and democracy. Then, Mr. President, finally, I am urging Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Army Forces, to join hands with the National Assembly, state assemblies, and relevant stakeholders in making sure that he free local government from dangerous species as declared by Supreme Court today, by giving local government their independence politically. This will, of course, strengthen rule of law, and it will bring rapid development to our rural area where we are representing. Mr. President, before I sit down, I must commend and appreciate and cherish the position of Chief Defense Staff, who clearly stated that there is clear relationship between local government administration and the current security challenges, more especially in northern Nigeria. Therefore, I am congratulating Mr. President, the Senate, and the entire Nigeria, and I'm urging the stakeholders to do their own best in making sure that we free local government and make them independent politically by having a unified electoral system which will free them from, let me repeat it again, a dangerous species as declared by Supreme Court today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for the information, even though we don't have the details. Senator Olamelekon, welcome. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is second reading of Foreign Exchange
You give him one.
Control and Monitoring Act, CAP F34, LFN Act, repeal and reenacted, Bill 2024, SB 353. Distinguished Senator will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 20th February 2024. Mr. Senate President, you may wish to invite Senator Musa Mohammed Sani to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I am Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East Senatorial District. And I'm leading the lead debate on the Foreign Exchange Control and Monitoring Bill 2024, SB 353. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, I felt quite honored to be given the opportunity to lead the debate on this Foreign Exchange Control and Monitoring Bill 2024. The bill was read for the first time on Tuesday, 20th February 2024. The important bill seeks to repeal the Foreign Exchange Monitoring and Miscellaneous Provision Act, CAP F34, laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and established a foreign exchange market in Nigeria to make provisions for the control, monitoring, and supervision of transactions conducted in the foreign exchange market. The objectives of the bill include, among others, to establish a foreign exchange market, to provide for the regulation, monitoring, and supervision of the transactions conducted in the market and for related matters, to contribute to the sound development of the national economy by striving to facilitate foreign transactions, to maintain an equilibrium or balance of international payments, to stabilize the value of currency by ensuring the liberalization of foreign exchange transactions, to maintain an equilibrium or balance of international payments, and to stabilize the value of currency by ensuring the liberalization of foreign exchange transactions and other foreign transactions by revitalizing market functionalities. The bill attempts to expand Section 1 of the existing acts to incorporate 3 new provisions to make for clarity and to empower the Central Bank of Nigeria to administer, control, and manage all dealings and transactions in relation to foreign exchange matters. The newly introduced clauses will enable the CBN to determine the basic exchange rate of purchase and sale of foreign exchange. Clause 6 of the bill introduces new subclauses 2, 4, and 5, which require authorized dealers to render returns to the CBN on sources of foreign exchange in excess of 10,000 USD and utilization of same, and obtain prior approval of the CBN when seeking to import foreign currency notes for the market. Part 3 of the bill makes elaborate provisions for the grant of a license to carry on business dealings in foreign exchange. In this part, provisions were made for the refusal of license, suspension or revocation of license, review and repeal and appeal, etc. Clause 18, 1A and B were added to expand the scope of dealers in the market, and where funds are purchased from the bank, the market rate may be subject to rules and regulations prescribed by the bank. The operation of domiciliary accounts shall be as prescribed by the bank, and the powers of the CBN have been widened to prescribe how foreign exchange may be accepted for the payment of for goods and services in Nigeria. Mr. President, the future of any nation is a function of her ability as a nation to manage its economy efficiently and optimally. Intrinsically linked to the wellness of a country's economy is the state of its foreign exchange market, usually regulated by a foreign exchange regime. Foreign exchange control measures are often adopted by a government as a strategy to either ban the use of foreign currency or restrict the amount of domestic currency that can be exchanged, traded, or purchased within her foreign exchange market. The main aim of exchange control, as deduced from most systems where exchange controls are in place, is to prevent or redress an adverse balance of payments by limiting foreign exchange purchases to an amount not in excess of foreign exchange receipts, in line with the requirements of Article 1 of International Monetary Fund (IMF) Articles of Agreement 2011. The article recognizes forex control as a strategy usually adopted by countries with transitional economies, and in particular the ones with weaker economies. Mr. President, this bill does not attach or envisage any financial burden on government because it does not seek to establish any agency or commission that may require funding by government. The bill, when passed into law, will contribute to sound development of our national economy, facilitate foreign transactions, and most importantly, stabilize the value of our currency by ensuring the liberalization of foreign transactions and revitalizing market functionality. The Senate is invited to note that the purpose of Foreign Exchange Control and Monitoring Bill 2004 and 2024 is to repeal the Foreign Exchange Monitoring and Miscellaneous Provision Acts F34 laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 and establish a foreign exchange market in Nigeria and to provide for the control, monitoring, and supervision for related matters. It is obvious from all indications that the 1995 Act, which was codified in 2004, in its present form requires to be comprehensively reviewed to remove its outdated provisions and to bring in new provisions to match up with new challenges in the regulation of foreign exchange market in line with international best practices and with the requirements of Article 14 of the International Monetary Fund Articles of Agreement 2011. This is exactly what the present bill has done. I urge you all to give this bill an expeditious and speedy passage into law. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, this is Senator Blank.
President of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Ticket Blank, Plateau Central. President of the Senate and my colleagues, I am not an accountant. I'm not even an economist. I just read physics, but I stand here to support this bill for the fact that one of the fundamental problems we have now is the value of our currency, the naira. And therefore, any step that will be taken to see to it that the naira, our currency, gain value, I think it should be a must-watch affair. And therefore, if this bill seeks to add value, to bring back value to our naira, it must be a bill that should be supported. However, I would like to suggest that in the midst of the legislators I'm very certain that here we have a lot of experts. And I believe that this is a moment for experts in finance, accounting, and so on and so forth to look at this bill very critically and find a way of adding some value to this bill. Because at this stage, if Nigeria will be able to approach and bring policies that will bring back value to our Naira, most of the socio-economic problems we are facing, I am very certain we will have solution. I commend the mover of this bill, and I would like to ask that experts should use their lenses, Asukwa and others should use your lenses and consult with have here and see to it what can we add so that at the end of the day we will come out with a bill that will help to retain our economy. I thank you, Mr. President, and my colleagues for allowing me bring my own suggestion towards this bill. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Abiru, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Adetokunbo Abiru, and I represent Lagos East Senatorial District. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, first and foremost, I would like to commend my colleague, Senator Sonny Musa, for sponsoring this bill. I'd like to also say that I share in his concerns as to what will have informed his sponsoring this bill, because, and I believe that it will not be unconnected with all that had happened in the foreign exchange market in the last 1 year. And of course, it is enough to give concerns to almost all of us. But again, I was also very quickly like to add that even in listening to the contents of the submission, he alluded to the fact that the extant laws guiding foreign exchange are quite obsolete, in the sense that referred to the 1995 decree. It was also codified in the 2004 Act as well. But one thing I would like to bring out very quickly is that, subsequent to the 2004 codification, we have since had the 2007 CBN Act, which in itself has given the sole responsibility of foreign exchange management of the country to be within the remit of the CBN, and is part of the independence that has been granted by this same parliament to the CBN. Now, again, it doesn't mean we shouldn't debate issues around foreign exchange. And I think that, again, if we have closely monitored all that had happened in the last 10 months or thereabout, since we put in place the new leadership of the CBN, we will recall that we have had a raft of policies relating to, trying to normalize the market. And so what is important, and the major mandate of the CBN, is about price stability. And I think that if you follow the raft of policies that they have brought about in the last 1 year or thereabout, what we see today, yes, the currency has been largely devalued, but again, I think you cannot attest to the stability of the exchange rate. If you look at it in the last 3 months or thereabout, it hovers between 1,500 or thereabout. What is important is the stability. All of the things around, whether domiciliary account, whether the monetary, the amount of cash you hold, other things related to how the bureau de changes are managed, I think that circulars, guidelines have been issued. And trying to come about a new bill would be interfering in the independence that we have already, granted to the CBN. So that would be my comment. I appreciate the concerns, but what we are trying to achieve is essentially around the stability of the currency. And today, I think that reasonably we are beginning to see that stability, which of course, it is what is most desirable, because that is what will encourage both, manufacturers, importers, and exporters, they need to have something that is very predictive. You don't want to work in an environment that the currency is not stable. So I so submit, Mr. President, my distinguished colleague. Thank you very much.
Chairman Appropriation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adiola Solomon Olamileko, representing Ogun West Senatorial District in the Senate of the Federal Republic. Mr. President, I also want to lend my support and also to thank the mover of this bill, because we're all aware the current happening with our foreign exchange markets. And from what I've seen from this bill tends to repeal the existing acts that we have, and also to expand the scope of this new bill. But one major issue I think this bill tends to address is the issue of this instability in our foreign exchange markets. And as you are all aware, we are battling between both the secondary and the primary markets. As we speak, the rate of dollars that is so sure anybody who is transacting any foreign exchange transaction is the secondary market. Even the CBN market, nobody, because if you approach the CBN that you want this at this rate, even after going through all paperwork and the dollars are not there. So I hope and I pray that this bill, when passed into law, will be able to address this instability and inconsistency we have in the foreign exchange market. Enough is enough. As we speak today, the rate of dollars is going up. But for some time, we have been able to hover around 1,004, 1,005, but now we are moving towards $1,600. And for just some little pronouncement, policy statement, the next thing you see is the dollar skyrocketing. What has the government done? The government have just issued a policy statement that they are trying to remove import or tax from some food items, wheat, maize, and something. Before you know it, everybody start running helter-skelter. Dollars start going up. For what? For how long are we going to continue in this? Any little thing you see that some people will just be there to take the advantage and control the market. So I hope that this bill, when eventually passed into law, will address all these issues that we have. And for once, we can get our foreign exchange market right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Lenge.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Abdul Lingi, representing Bauchi Central of Bauchi State. Mr. President, this is a very, very much commendable out-of-box thinking, and of course, by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance. It is imperative that we have a lot of problems in this country, and that we have been so lackadaisical in calling to some of these issues at hand. In particular, the 2004 provision has not been able to capture the essence and the stability of the foreign exchange in our country. The foreign exchange, as adequately canvassed by the appropriation committee chairman, has been left in tatters. Nobody seems to be in control. Now, you begin to wonder, is it the law that is the problem, or is it the implementers of the law that is the problem? By reading through the submission of this bill, you begin to see some gaps that were actually created after the 2004 bill that was passed into law by the National Assembly. So therefore, it is important to begin to look at these gaps and to close them. However, I do not think the law at second reading is sufficient enough to be able to give us a very clear indication of where we're going. This particular law has to be subjected to a series of public hearings so that experts from all over Nigeria and beyond will be able to come and give us their own mindset. Part of the problem we have been having that where we try to do this law for the good of the citizens, but at the background, there are people who are well educated, they are trying to take the opportunity in looking at these gaps and try to play around and manipulate it. So it is important that we pass this law to second reading, but equally important that we must subject it to vigorous public hearing so that at the end of the day what you are going to receive is a fair representation and acceptance by Nigerians. I should support this bill.
Is this Senator Yaya?
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me so many opportunities today. I thought my day today will not be well if I don't lend my voice to first comment on this initiative and also to raise some concerns, Mr. President. My first concern is that this is a very welcome development if we are to have a very rigorous, well-developed, and democratically controlled foreign exchange market that makes buyer and seller free to transact instead of going through speculators. Now, like Senator Lingi said, sir, we need expertise because there are out there some people who live virtually doing nothing on the rent that is sold between the market and the speculative thing. And what really this means is that we have to look into this in relation to the import propensity of the Nigerian economy. This is an import-driven economy, and that's what makes the dollar very dominant. Now, first of all, I think there has to be some very close interaction between banking and finance committees and our banking and the finance committees, because I think this is where the crunch of the matter really is. Because the CBN Act gives the central bank overwhelming control over foreign exchange transactions. But here we are having an act which tries to create a market, an autonomous market for transacting of foreign exchange. Now, how that will relate to the overall control of the CBN of the market is an issue that needs to be really well looked after. And that's why, Mr. President, we need experts to come into this to advise. I also think the mover of this, the sponsor of this motion, of this bill, should, give us some clarity whether he is talking about amending the existing act or repealing the entire law and doing another one. Because I think the issue, because the issue is very clear. If you are amending in the lead debate, he is talking from both sides of his mouth. Really from both sides of his mouth. He is talking about amendment and then he's talking about repeal. Now, if we are amending an existing law or repealing the entire legislation and coming up with a fresh one, I think this institution, needs to really look into this. It is an excellent initiative. We should not allow it to just go away. But I think we should sit down and really look into it in the light of the overall national economy, the banking system we are operating, and the way in which the government relationship with this market,
is going to be legislated. This is a very, very important thing, but I think we have to have some measure of clarity, whether we are amending the existing act or we are coming with a fresh law, which will mean that we'll have to come and repeal the earlier act and come up with a fresh law in accordance with the objectives that you set out for yourself. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
In reality, though the heading says lead debate on foreign exchange control and monitoring bill 2024, the body of the lead debate says repeal and annulment. I think that's the confusion there. The bill actually says this bill, important bill, okay, maybe the idea was to say this important bill seeks to repeal the Foreign Exchange Monitoring and Miscellaneous Provisions Act Cap F34, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and establish a foreign exchange market in Nigeria. It's very wide. It's very broad. I believe that fiscal and monetary policies belong to Minister of Finance, coordinating Minister of the Economy, and then of course the monetary policy belongs to the Governor of Central Bank and the Sum Board. It would have been wonderful if this came as executive bill, then we would have been able to. But if we didn't hear, we try to monitor and control foreign exchange. We may, by legislation, be driving executive actions that if our proposals fail, then it is the parliament that will be blamed. Be that as it may, let me hear from the former Accountant General of the Federation, Senator Dan Pampo. Where it is the job of the parliament. It's the job of the parliament to get every expertise, that is needed for us to do our work, to guide us properly. So let me hear from the former Accountant General of the Federation. I would presuppose that you have read the existing act that this bill seeks to repeal and to reenact.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Ibrahim, Senator Ibrahim Ankombo, representing from the North. I was still making my points when Mr. President called me. So I am obeying as obeyed. Let me start too by commending the initiative of bringing anything today that can regulate or stabilize the foreign exchange in Nigeria. And to commend the mover of the bill too, and the contributions that have been made so far. The foreign exchange market, Mr. President, is very sensitive and very delicate, as said by the previous speakers. And the stability of the market is determined by so many things. Today, as we are talking, if we live here trying to bring something different from the existing guideline, by evening today, if the exchange rate is 1.6, it may go to 1.8. Today, if there are chances that some kind of laws are being made today that will create chaos or commotion in the country, people will start going to look for foreign exchange. Demand will go up with the limited supply, exchange rate will go up. So it's not the amount of regulation really that determine or stabilize the market. But the most important thing, that by the law of this parliament, the law gives monetary policy powers to the Central Bank of Nigeria as it is today. And has been alluded, so far, the bank through various regulations, interventions here and there, through various circulars and policies, trying so many things, has been able to stabilize. What matter of stability is, can I plan? If it is going to stabilize at one point, 1,002, 1,003, or whichever rate, that does not really matter. But you will be able to predict and determine and plan based on what you are going to get anytime you require that kind of thing in the market. Two, if we try to bring any policy or any law that will regulate another market, the secondary market, like has been said, from the primary market, there will be a conflict in regulation, and we will end up going into problems. Three, if we do not allow the CBN to focus and independently determine the foreign exchange market, given the kind of capacity I know CBN has, and bringing into Ministry of Finance or some agency or some kind of body to be bringing laws and regulations that may be in tandem with that of CBN or may be in conflict with that of CBN, that may further bring the stability in the market. But I agree with the views that the bill be read thoroughly, understood thoroughly, so that going forward we will be able to add input as much as possible to bring in and to assist in stabilizing the market, Mr. President. I so submit.
Well, thank you. That is from the mouth of an expert. The two Senator Sani Musa, the sponsor of the bill. It's not the law that stabilizes the foreign exchange market. It has a lot to do with availability, willing buyer, willing seller. So where I have a little confusion here is in respect of clause 6 of the bill. First, the newly introduced clauses will enable the CBN to determine the basic exchange rate of purchase and sale of foreign exchange. That means you are fixing the price. So the idea of willing buyer, willing seller will be gone. Just wait. Secondly, you want people to render returns to the CBN on sources of foreign exchange in excess of $10,000. That means no child will school abroad unless the parents are able to convince the CBN on where they got $10,000 to send to the child. Nobody will go for medical treatment if payment of the medical treatment is denominated in dollars. I'm reading from what you have here. Then, so if you have $10,000 to send to your child, you must go first to the CBN to get clearance. And CBN must ask you, where did you get the $10,000 from? And if you say you sold cassava, they will have to send a visitation panel to your cassava farm to go and I'm reading from what you have here. It's not a function of contribution. I'm talking about what is here. We should not overflow the issue. It's not what you are writing. What you are writing. That is the point now. Are you trying to repeal that? But you are saying that that these are going to be new clauses. I'm saying that, listen to what you are saying. I'm saying you are trying to add new sub-clauses 2, 4, and 5. I'm just, Senator Biro, are you hearing what I'm saying? Huh? You are adding sub-clauses. I'm saying even the sub-clauses will further bring confusion. It's not true, Senator Warada, just give me an opportunity to say something. Obtain prior approval of the central bank when seeking to import foreign exchange currency. So even those who are bringing foreign exchange into the country, wait now, did you specify markets? There is even a confusion between market and foreign exchange monitoring and control, because this bill seeks to repeal the foreign exchange monitoring and control, which is an action of the CBN, and to introduce a new market called foreign exchange market in Nigeria. So I'm a bit confused, and that's why I said this would have been best as an executive act, because there's already a lot of fluctuations in the market. If we now come with a law, like Senator Dan Kwambo said, if we stand up from here, people hear that we are trying to tamper with the willing buyer, willing seller syndrome, that people will just start hoarding because that we are regulating. Senator Warada, what do you want to say?
Mr. President, I remember Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu Sarkin Yakin Kefi, representing Nasarawa West Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I wouldn't be exempted, or I wouldn't want to be excluded from our colleagues that commended, and I commend the sponsor of this bill. But having commended him, the issues contained in the bill are contradictory, conflicting, and of course, confusing. The ideology or the principle behind the items contained in the bill can be understood, which is the reason why I commend him. Let me take the issues one by one, because all the issues contained in the bill are part of our extant rules and laws already. Talking about market, there is already foreign exchange market in Nigeria. What is a market? Market is determined buyer, willing seller. It can be online, it can be physical, it can be virtual, it can be. There is already foreign exchange market in Nigeria. And of course, it calls for concern or concerns that we stabilize our currency. How do we stabilize our currency? I said earlier in the other chamber, the price of every commodity is determined by market forces, demand and supply. And so, for us to be able to sustainably stabilize our currency as Naira, we must rejuvenate our real sector. And the government of today is doing everything possible, because one of the reasons why the real sector is in the situation it is in Nigeria is, of course, instability in power supply. And this government is doing everything possible, electricity, gas, compressed natural gas, and what have you, to provide power. If we do not rejuvenate our real sector, which is a major employer of labor, that will provide much more for domestic utilization and much more for export. And the more we export, the more foreign exchange we earn. The more foreign exchange we earn, the more our foreign reserve grows, and the more our currency gets stabilized. Secondly, where I commend him, and I am in sync with the idea of amending the law to bring it up to date, because dynamism of life makes it imperative for everything in life to be dynamic. For crying out loud, this is 21st century. So if the law needs to be amended to bring it up to in tune to the realities of the day, that should be done. But I don't see any reason why we should contemplate. If we like, let's create 1,000,001 agencies, commissions, or modalities, so long as the fundamentals are not gotten right. We will not achieve all this, and all the necessary agencies, bodies, policies, rules that have got to do with all this, Mr. President, are in place. Senator Sani Musa, you remain my brother forever. I commend you for this initiative.
Thank you for your contribution. But you see, I also have problems with your contribution. Stop. You cannot be like. You cannot be commending him and at the same time punching him, because almost everybody that stood up here said, I commend. Don't commend. Just say that you welcome this discussion. But if it is not something that we have to dabble into, and then we believe that the monetary policy committees, the CBN, the fiscal policy of the Ministry of Finance are doing their best, let's pinpoint where the areas of improvement that we can through legislation. But when we are talking about repeal and reenactment, what we are repealing is the foreign exchange monitoring and control. And we now want to reenact foreign, foreign exchange markets. And it's a bit confusing. So that's the reason why I said, are we not trying to put petrol on fire? Because like Senator Dankwambo pointed out, as soon as we dabble into this, people will say, oh, that a law is coming. And if the law is coming, let's buy as much as we can. You see what Senator Oshomole, you'll be raising your hand.
Mr. President, I really want to thank you for allowing me to say something. I think, sir, that you have summarized in your first intervention the fact that bills of this nature have to come from the executive. Number two, in an earlier decision, we said if we are going to repeal a law, the law must be available for us to look at and compare the provisions with the proposed new law. I am completely at home with the submission of Senator Abiru. And with profound respect to my friend Sani, hard I should try. You know, you try to appeal to our sentiment with regards to foreign exchange stability. Yet, the specific provision will do damage to that stability. Markets, by their nature, is well summarized by the man who has spoken and left, Senator Wadada. Sir, for Nigerians to hear that we are discussing a market reform by IMF thinking.
I think if you look very well, you may have moved from where he spoke. Wadada may still be around, but look around. It may be somewhere else. Okay. You are now there. So it's there. It's there.
Thank you, sir. So I think, for example, you talk of stability and you talk about liberalization. To liberalize is to remove control. How? To remove control is to make government completely redundant. I think, sir, with profound respect, I appreciate only incitation.
stability. But the instrument you put here will do damage to stability. And I like to suggest that this thing be set aside completely because, like was eloquently enumerated by my brother, Senator Dakwabo, once we start speculation that foreign exchange might change, laws might change very soon, once that is in the psyche, everything will go. And I like finally to comment on the remark by the Senate Committee Chairman on Appropriation, Senator Iyayi Olamilekan. He was wondering how the mere pronouncement, because this is at the heart of Dakwabo's submission, the mere pronouncement that government will import more food, it will remove some elements of taxes and levies and duties, has already created tension in the market, and that Naira has taken a dive. Why not? Once government announced that we intend to import more, and everybody is aware that that does not mean government is going to earn more forex. So that commitment to import more naturally lead to speculation that importation, additional importation, can only put more pressure on the Naira. That results in the new rate that you are seeing. That is why, as Dakwapo said, we have to be careful. Because we have power to legislate, we cannot speculate. Anything done in this house, Nigerians will take it very seriously because we have the power to make laws, including the laws of life and death. Mr. President, I conclude by saying you have summarized it, you have amplified very meticulously the contradictions. I will provide respect. Let this law, let this bill rest in peace. It should attract no further hearing. It shouldn't go to public hearing because even that we see suggest that we are trying to we are trying to tinker with the CBN Act and the foreign exchange market. If it is necessary, I'm sure the executive knows what to do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator, Senator Warada, allow Senator Sani Musa to hear what I'm saying. Distinguished Senator Sani Musa, you have an opportunity to make a comment and possibly withdraw this for further consultations, or I put a question. Distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that this may be read a second time? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The next have it. Yes, leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate. Yes.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise pursuant to Order 38 of our rules to move for the rearrangement of our orders of the day to enable me present as the second order of the day, rather than the fifth order of the day, the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Police Affairs on the confirmation of the nominations of the following persons as listed on the order paper for appointment as chairman, secretary, and member of the Police Service Commission, i.e. DIG Hashimu Salihu Argungu, retired chairman, Chief Oyemuche Nnamani, secretary, and Barrister Frederick Taiwo Lakanu, member. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Abdul Hamid Malam Medori Ahmed, chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion moved by the Senate leader. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved by the by the leader of the Senate that we do reorder the items on our order paper to enable us to take item 2. Those in support that we reorder to take item 2, which is confirmation of a Police Service Commission, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the second motion, moved and seconded, is to the effect that we do invite the chairman of the Committee on Police Affairs, distinguished Senator Maduri, to present his report. Those in favor that this be allowed, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished Senator Maduri.
Thank you,
You may
Mr.
proceed
President.
to lay your report.
My name is Senator Ahmed Abdulhamid Malam Maduri. I rise in my capacity as the Chairman, Senate Committee on Police Affairs, to move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Police Affairs on the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as Chairman, Secretary, Member of the Police Service Commission. Mr. President, I need your permission to lay the report before presenting it.
Distinguished Senator Mongudu, you have moved a motion to lay his report. You may wish to second the motion.
Okay. Distinguished Senator, distinguished President of the Senate, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tai Mongudu. I represent Gornuno Senatorial District. I hereby second the motion that the Chairman of the Police Affairs Committee do present his report.
Colleagues, the motion has been moved by the Chairman of Police Affairs and seconded by the Chairman of Legal Matters that he be allowed to lay the report on the presidential nominees on the Police Service Commission. Those in support that the report be laid say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Maduri, you may move forward to lay your report. Senator Maduri, go ahead to present a summarized version of your report.
Were distributed to distinguished senators. So I will briefly go to page 6 of the report. That is observations and findings of the committee. That the nominations of the nominees satisfy the provision of Section 154 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, and the Senate Standing Orders 2023 as amended. That the career, progression, and professional track record of the nominees validate the fact that they are persons of proven integrity and ability. There is neither a petition nor any adverse security report against their nominations. That the qualification, track record of excellent professional services and cognate experience of the nominees confirm and affirm their suitability, competence, and comportment to be appointed as chairman, secretary, and member of the Police Service Commission, respectively. Recommendation. The Senate Committee on Police Affairs, having screened the nominees and is satisfied with their qualifications, suitability, and eligibility for appointment as chairman, secretary, and member of the Police Service Commission, hereby recommend as follows. That the Senate do confirm the nomination of DIG Hashimu Salihu Argungu as chairman, Chief Unyemuchi Innamani as secretary, and Barrister Frederick Taiwo Lakanu as member of the Police Service Commission, respectively. We so move, Mr. President, for the consideration and confirmation of these gentlemen. In conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the committee,
I thank you for your attention and for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Distinguished Senator Siriaki Dixon, former governor, former this, former that.
Thank you, Mr. President and my dear colleagues. Henry Siriaki Dixon, Bayelsa West. Mr. President, I rise to align myself with the motion that has been ably moved in respect of the request for consideration and confirmation of Mr. President's nominees as Chairman and Member and Secretary of the Police Service Commission. Mr. President, I am also a member of the committee of this Senate on Police Affairs. And as the chairman has ably stated, the committee performed our duty as was requested by the plenary and in accordance with our rules. And I want to also say that apart from what he has said about this gentleman, I also have personal knowledge of all of them in the course of our service in various capacities. DIG Agungu and DIG Taiwo Lakonu all served this country for almost 35 years, respectively, before their meritorious retirements. And it's a good thing that Mr. President has found them once again as fit and proper persons to be called back yet again for national service. And same also goes for the secretary nominee. So I rise, Mr. President, to align myself with the motion that has been moved by the chairman in accordance with our findings and recommendations as a committee after interacting with these distinguished Nigerians. So I align by seconding and by also requesting that this Senate do confirm Mr. President's nominees that have passed through our legislative mill. I so second. Thank you.
Well, in line with our summation, we have two more people. Distinguished Senate President Emeritus, Senator Abela.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. I'm an honor to represent Yobe North. Mr. President, let me commend the chairman and committee members of the Committee on Police Affairs for a very wonderful job and a very good and rich report. Mr. President, the nominees are all qualified, competent, capable. There's no doubt about that. And it is our hope that when they are confirmed and appointed by Mr. President, they will start work immediately. There was a bad experience, Mr. President, and that's why I thought I should say something. There was, once upon a time, an Inspector General of Police, and there was, once upon a time, the Police Service Commission chairman, who, because of some unexplained reasons, disagreed on who should recruit the Nigeria police. They ended up in the Supreme Court, and in their fight, they stopped and stalled the recruitment of police for over 2 years. Mr. President, that was a bad experience. We must insist on resolving whatever those issues are between them, those two organizations. Currently, there isn't, because I had to intervene in the last assembly between the Nigeria Police, headed by the IG, and the Police Service Commission, headed by the chairman of the Police Service Commission then. And I believe that this set of people are well qualified to do the job, but I hope there will be no encumbrances. And I would urge that our committee on police affairs should continue to monitor how things are done. And Mr. President, at your own level, maybe you need to find out if there is anything. I know the case in the Supreme Court was withdrawn eventually, but we should not relieve it because it wastes our time to work for Nigerians and police our country. Because if instead of recruiting 10,000 every year for 2 years, nothing was done, we lost the opportunity to get 20,000 policemen and women into the service. So I think we need to do something to ensure that this kind of experience is never repeated. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
DSP, so whose right is it to recruit?
Well, Mr. President, let me commend the committee for a job well done. I'm really impressed by the quality of the report, and of course, the committee members and the chairman. The chairman, very experienced senator who has been around since 1992. No wonder that the report is well packaged and well put together. I commend the committee and the chairman and the members. Stand up. Even Senator Dixon is a member, so no wonder. It has areas of experience legislators, and so that's why I have this well packaged report. That said, I'm also very impressed by the level of scrutiny that was applied in screening the nominees. And it is seen here that there's no adverse report on any of the nominees. And they have outstanding, each of them has an outstanding pedigree. For these facts that I've just mentioned, I think the Senate should not waste any time in giving its note to the confirmation of these nominees. And once they are confirmed, we expect them to do very well in ensuring that the recruitment of necessary personnel to beef up the Nigerian police force will be done as soon as possible. I don't understand it's ongoing, but all hands should be on deck in order to reposition Nigerian police for better service to our nation. Mr. President, thank you.
The Senate leader, I wish to move that we revert the committee of the whole to consider the approval.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to move that the Senate dissolve into committee of whole to consider the report.
Yes, minority leader first.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I support the motion that the Senate goes into the committee of the whole to consider the report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do resolve into committee of the whole to consider this report. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of DIG Hashimu Saliu Argungu, retired, for appointment as chairman of the Police Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Chief Onyewuchi Namani for appointment as Secretary of the Police Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of DIG retired Barrister Frederick Taiwo Lakano for appointment as member of the Police Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to move that the Senate reverts back to plenary for the Senate President to report progress. I so move.
Yes. Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate reverse into plenary to enable the chair to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that the Senate, with the chair, revert to plenary to report progress. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we revert to plenary. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Police Affairs on the screening of Mr. President's nominees for appointment as Chairman, Secretary, and Member of the Police Service Commission and approved the nominations of DIG Hashimu Saliu Argungu, retired, as Chairman, Chief Onyewuchi Namani as Secretary, Barrister Frederick Taiwo Lakano as member. So accordingly, the three approvals are for chairman, secretary, and member of the Police Service Commission. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve and confirm the nomination of DIG Hashimu Saliu Argungu, retired, for appointment as Chairman of the Police Service Commission? Those in favor of the confirmation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Specifically, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Chief Onyewuchi Namani for appointment as Secretary of the Police Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the nomination of DIG Hashimu Saliu Argungu is hereby confirmed as Chairman of the Police Service Commission. Distinguished colleagues, the nomination of Chief Onyewuchi Namani is hereby confirmed as Secretary of the Police Service Commission. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Frederick Taiwo Lakano for appointment as member of the Police Service Commission? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Barrister Frederick Taiwo Lakun is hereby confirmed as member of the Police Service Commission. Let me congratulate the Committee on Police Affairs, ably led by distinguished Senator Maduri, and all the members, and also congratulate our colleagues who have made contributions towards the report painstakingly done and submitted before the Senate. The Committee on Police Affairs also ensure oversight functions hereafter to avoid the mistakes of years, particularly the idea of the Office of the Inspector General of Police struggling with the Police Service Commission on issues of recruitment and thereby retarding the progress of security in the nation. In the last 2 years, we probably will have had additional 20,000 Nigerians into the Nigerian police force. But unfortunately, as a result of personality clashes, the issues went as far as the Supreme Court. Whether withdrawn or not withdrawn, this Police Service Commission we have just cleared today, with the Office of Inspector General of Police, to be cautioned to take the interests of Nigerians into consideration and the security of this nation uppermost, and not their personal interests, and work harmoniously towards the realization of Mr. President's vision that Nigerians should be allowed to sleep with their 2 eyes closed. I congratulate them and wish them well in the service of their fatherland. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, without prejudice to the desire of our dear distinguished colleagues to continue to work on the floor, but conscious of the fact that committee assignments are waiting to be discharged, may I most respectfully move that we step down the other items on the other paper to another legislative day to enable us to close the proceedings for today and go into other legislative activities. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion moved by the Senate Leader that we step down other items on the other paper to the next legislative day and to enable the Senate to adjourn appropriately. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do step down other items on the other paper to enable our colleagues proceed to other functions of the Senate oversight and committee assignments. Those in support of this motion as moved and seconded, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Accordingly, this Senate is hereby adjourned to Tuesday, the 16th day of July at 11 a.m. prompt.